sweet friends, welcome back, or welcome if you're new. I hope you are excited to work on another Valentine project with me. And so we have another pocket folio inspired by the one we created last week, but there is a significant difference in this one to that one, and that is going to be that we're using party bags rather than handled gift bags. And so we're going to get these beautiful pockets. I'm including some papers that are from my Christmas stash, as well as printables from my shop to create all of these lovely details. And so that party bag is going to be a great shortcut to get us to the fun part of decorating this pocket folio. And we do have some new design technique for this. This is just not one that we have created in the past, but it is new and improved. So if that sounds good to you, then stick around and we will make it together. So my inspiration for this project was to recreate the technique that we used last week with those handled gift bags, but this time use the gift sacks. And so these would come from Dollar Tree. They are a pack of 8 for $1.25. So that's an even better value than the handled gift bags. And so if you were to create the project as we have today, you would be able to get 2 from this, and that is a great value for this shortcut. And so these are like little lunch bags. They're not the party bags that wouldn't have a gusset, and so we're going to utilize this portion for a pocket. I'm also going to dig into my stash of Christmas papers. I know I have quite a lot of patterns that will work equally well for Valentine. So they're either reds or plaids or something with a light background that's neutral, and so that I can mix and match these and get some use out of it. And I have had this paper pad for some time, and I keep using it and it keeps being there. So this was a good way to knock out some of it. You can see it's still here, but I did get through more of it. And I'm having this 8x8 paper pad was a little bit awkward to work with, but you will see I was able to use my offcuts for my pockets for the layering. And so I did get good use out of this. And so thank you, Christmas paper, for our project today. And of course, I've got this sweet little printable. This is the Beary Valentine, and it has that beautiful pink background with red accents. So this is going to work really well for a variety of different types of paper. And so this is going to be very versatile. I printed that in the size that it was designed. I have my printer set on profile, and then I also have the margin set as small as the printer will allow without printing off the side. And that way I get a good size journal card type of insert for those pockets. And so here's that bag again. And I was going to fold it, if you remember from last week, and then bind it on the end, but I didn't like the scale. And so I thought this was going to be too small and a little bit awkward to work with. If I wanted printables, it wasn't going to be tall enough. And so I really wanted to start rethinking that. And of course, I do want to have a pocket. So that first thing I want to do is just fold that over on the end. And so for my purpose, this was going to be too tall to get the best use out of that paper pad. So my initial instinct was to cut it off. But for some reason, I had a moment of clarity, and if I were a better YouTuber, I could import that X-Files music and have the math graphic going around, because I figured out a thing that really improves the thickness and the sturdiness of this book, and that is not to cut it off, but to fold it. And so I'm just going to bring this to my scoreboard and line it up so that my pocket is on the left-hand side, and I want it to be 5.5 inches tall. So I'm just going to score that right along 5 inches. It's pretty thin paper in each layer, so you want to take a few passes and just get that gently scored. I'll flip that over and do the same thing for this side as well. And so this would be the difference between the folios we've made in the past with pockets. Instead of cutting that off, we're just going to fold that right on that score line. You see, And look at that lovely finished edge that we wind up with. Because we have 4 pockets planned for the inside, we don't need to have those top folding inserts here. So let's just fold that over, get all that extra thickness for sturdiness, and then we'll have this covered with our layering cardstock and our pattern paper. So let's do that now. Just simply want to tack this down. I'll use my double-sided adhesive and I'll pull the backing off. I always say pull the tape off, and someone in the comments will remind me that I'm not pulling the tape, but pulling the backing off. And so let's just do that, you see, and that will keep it toward that back piece. I'll just add a little bit inside the bag as well. And by the way, Dollar Tree has these in quite a few colors, so you could easily switch out your theme if you want to do something for a different holiday, or maybe a kids project. You can easily accommodate that by switching out your background. You see now it is closer to the back, and what I can do is cover up that cut edge. And so the bag itself starts out at 9.5 by 4.5. And then I folded that pocket up, and then I folded the top down. And so now our measurement is going to be 5.5 inches high. And so I want to add my cardstock over top of that cut edge. And so this is going to measure 5 3/8 by 4 3/8. And the pattern paper is 5 1/4 by 4 1/4. So you're going to get that beautiful layering border of the bag itself. And then also the pretty pink cardstock layer that we've added. So now you see it is barely noticeable, that last little bit, but boy, is this thick now. And so I really love that we're going to build up the sturdiness for this. And so when our pocket is folded up, a choice would be to add your glue to the sides, and that is going to diminish the size of the pocket. So you would not be able to have as large of or as many inserts. So what I want to do is just wrap some additional cardstock. This is one of the few projects I will ever bring in 2 different colors of cardstock, but I did want to start with that red bag. And so the cardstock I'm working for, the base itself is going to be red. And then for the layering, we'll go to the pink, and that will match our pattern paper and the printable, and so that will be nice. So I'm just going to use my 2 glue combo here. Probably not exactly necessary, but I am pretty used to doing this step, so I don't want to get out of practice. And then I have a piece of that cardstock, and it's just cut to be 2.5 inches high, and that would be what the depth of that bag would be. So I'm just going to cover that completely with this layering bit, and I'll just line that up along the bottom. Scoreboard back, I'll just line this up along one of the grooves where it falls along the edge so that I can get a crisp fold there. I'll do the same for this side as well. Wouldn't hurt just to take a little bit of that excess paper off the side, leave enough so that you can add some adhesive. And then I'll just fold that around. I might even come in and take a little bit of that corner off just to make sure that it stays nice and tidy. And then I'll just secure that on the back. And so now we're going to have much more room on the inside of our pockets, and we do want to add a pattern paper here as well. So a layering pattern would just be a different color or a more contrasted pattern. So I got this pretty red wood grain, and this is going to be 2 3/8 by 4 3/8. I'm not going to add that pink layer here because I don't want to get it too bulky. so that we don't have room in those pockets for all of the inserts that we want to add. But now you can see how nice and thick this is going to be. It's so sturdy, and this is going to be a real chunky book. So now we have another piece of red cardstock, and this one is going to be 5.5 inches high by 9 1/4. It's scored at 4.5 and 4 3/4, and we're going to use this to combine those two pockets into one section. And so I have found that when you begin to start folding things and adding those layers, you do develop a little bit of bulk. Even if you are much better at measuring, it will happen. And so I want to add my adhesive to this piece, because this is what will be for sure adhered to the next layer, and none of it will hang over. So 2 glue combo for this, and then bring your pocket to it right up to where that score line is, keeping it straight and even along the bottom. And because I'm using all red, you will not notice in the finished book where the edge of this paper is and the bag. And so this is going to be a perfect way to get that look that is nice and finished. But you don't have to do super finicky math, because Lord knows I cannot do that. So do the same thing on this side. It's much easier to pull the backing off the tape from each side separately and then add those pockets. We're going to wind up with 4 pockets. We have 2 sections just like this. For our printable, that works very well, because I do have 9 images designed to fit on that. You can put 2 of the inserts in each of the pockets and then have your favorite image cut so that it could be a focal image on the front. Here is that other piece that I have prepared ahead of time. I just matched my papers, but if it makes sense to you to mix and match, then you do that. And what matters most is that you're just getting through your stash. So let's put this piece on and get that pressed in place real well. So now this is one whole section, and you can see the depth that we built in here was really necessary to accommodate these pockets, but this sure is getting heavy and thick, so that makes me really happy. I have another one created with the exact same measurement and technique, and so I want to bring these together to increase the amount of space that we have to finish our book. And so here comes that last piece of cardstock, and this is going to be 5.5 by 9, scored at 4.5, so just in half. And then I did already add some more of that pretty pattern paper. Doesn't look too Christmassy now, does it? Makes it much more neutral background, and so we can add the finishing details that we want. I did add the pink cardstock and the pattern paper, same measurements as we did for the inside of the pocket, so that makes it easy. So now what I want to do is just add these together in the same way we did with the 2 glue combo. Get these stacked up nice and even. It's a little hard to see sometimes when you have dark cardstock, for me anyway, because I'm not looking directly over top of it to keep things in the frame of the camera. So I do my best, and everything usually winds up pretty good. So now let's take the backing off of this side of this tape. This went together so fast, you guys, and really, I think if you are batch crafting, you could cut a lot of pieces ahead of time and then just sit and assemble them. Maybe you have a show or a podcast or football to watch, and then you could do the busy work ahead and then do the fun stuff later. So here's the second pocket section. I'm just making very sure to keep all the pockets going in the right orientation. Bring those corners together again. And working in our basement, our lower level here in Southeast Michigan, and it is cold, y'all. So if you see goosebumps on my arm, that is why. It is chilly down here, but this went together so quickly, so I'll get to be upstairs in the warm very quickly. I do want to finish the back with the pretty pattern paper and the cardstock, so I'll just add that piece now. Still getting those nice borders. Look how chunky that is, you guys. I'm so happy to have this moment of clarity for these pocket pages. So I do want to add trim as I do for the purpose of keeping everything in those pockets secure. So pull just enough off so that you can tie yourself a nice generous bow, and then tack it down with your double-sided tape so that it will be in place, and then you can sandwich it between the layers of the pattern paper and the base. This is real pretty stitched satin ribbon from Really Reasonable Ribbon, and it is beautiful for a nice bow, and also it holds its shape. It's thin enough to tie that bow on the end and not get too bulky, so I really like this stitch satin. So that will be held in place until we put our cover on. Same as the back pattern, but I did put a layering pattern on just for a little bit of extra detail. In this one, I'm going to do my 2 glues so that I know I've got that trim really well adhered. Remember that I mentioned those printables from my shop, and so look how sweet these are. I did take the offcuts of my paper to make a nice little border. This helps them to be more sturdy, and then also I can write on the back if I want to add some details. And so remember that we have 8. Let's put 2 in each of these pockets, and then we can add our pictures and our journaling and keep it all secured by tying it with this pretty trim. So remember, our cover is a little bit smaller than what we would usually have if we were just working with our cardstock. And so that means we need a little bit of a smaller doily, and I'm not going to add a layering pattern over top of that. I think this is just going to be perfect to break up a little bit of that busy paper pattern. And then here comes that oh so sweet image that I picked for the front. This is my focal image, and I did fussy cut around to remove that pink background just so that it would have enough room for all of these layers to show. I did put that on heavy cardstock, and then I put it on some foam tabs, the thin foam tabs, so that I could pop that up and get some dimension. And so here is my flowers. These are magnolias from Really Reasonable Ribbon, and I switched out the center. I've added die cut foliage, netting, and loopy twine bows, and you see how perfectly that will go. So if I had a larger cover, I would probably consider adding some additional trim to this, but there isn't room for this one, so this is going to be a perfect way to balance and fill in the bottom of the space. I'm adding that with hot glue and making sure that it's well secured. I've got my usual favorite finishing touches, and I'll just add these here on string, some pretty metal charms in a heart shape, and then I will top off the cut strings with a pretty little button. I also like to have a couple of sequins here, once again, to balance the other side. And so if you are interested in checking out the printable, I will link that in the description along with those pretty trims. And remember to keep your eye out for those party bags at the Dollar Tree. And so they're not marked as favor bags, they're marked as party bags, so that you will get all of that dimension from the gusseted portion. And that is what you want to make this super nice and sturdy. So that's going to be it for today. I hope that I inspired you to go back through your Christmas papers and find some that you can pull out to get extra use out of now that that holiday season is over, but you do want to get through your stash. And so I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. Remember to check for links. And as always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day. And I thank you so much for watching. Bye.